Welcome back to our first episode of Strings and Stories. We have our featured guest, Lindsay Hinkle. How's it going today?
Fantastic. It's a beautiful Saturday.
It is. It really is. I don't know what it's doing in Nashville, but it is god awful hot here. And I'm really not looking forward to having to go outside here in about an hour.
I'm
So
sorry.
it's Texas, though. I guess that's kind of what we signed up for. Oh, so Lindsay, excited to have you on, excited to chat with you and get to know more about you. We kind of met randomly through threads, which I don't actively go on threads on a daily basis, but it was just kind of interesting how we came across each other. So, yeah. So for anybody that's just kind of getting to meet you for the first time, what's kind of your background story?
Moved up here in 2019, and I tell this story to everyone, and it took a while for me to be able to talk about it and not feel insecure. But I found that by telling it, you never know other people that might have had the same struggle. But I moved up here 4.5 years ago into a halfway house. I lived in a halfway house for drug and alcohol addiction, and it was my own choice. I was not no one, dropped me off there, but I had basically just hit my bottom. I've been a musician, a singer-songwriter all my life and struggled with addiction off and on and tried to get better, and it didn't stick. And I was like living in a cabin out in the woods in Alabama somewhere, and my friend Kelly Johnson had messaged me on Facebook, and it was one of the days that I was able to get on the internet,
Mhm.
and told me that someone was interested in one of my songs, and it just lit a spark in me. And it was just this one little seed of hope that if I got my shit together, that I might, have a chance still, because I'd given up. And so had someone drop me off, at a halfway house, and I was there for a year and a half, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
First off, I love Kelly Johnson. We've worked with her several times. So the fact that you two know each other, that's just kind of very cool and how it interconnects. And secondly, the fact that you decided to make that turn to better yourself and get yourself help, treatment, however you want to phrase it, is absolutely amazing because we have lost way too many people, way too many musicians to accidental overdoses, however you want to describe it. We've lost too many musicians. So I'm really glad that you decided to uh, get help.
Thank you. Yeah, I am too. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. I didn't know I had so much to live for. Because I'd pretty much given up on it. I was over it. I was ready to just go ahead and die. And it's crazy to talk about it now. And when I came to that realization, I didn't at the time. I didn't think that's where I was, but that's most certainly where I was.
Yeah. And having listened to your music and a lot of the stuff that you have up on Spotify and whatnot, your music is so amazing. And I'm glad that we've crossed paths just in that vein of the little bit that we've talked here on the show and beforehand. I'm really glad we've crossed paths.
Well, thank you. I'm glad we are too, and I'm excited to have a lot more music on Spotify. It was a struggle because after I moved up here, I didn't have a car. I still wait tables. I make a joke that I'm going to be a Grammy Award winning server. But I mean, my goal is to eventually become financially free where I can just do music, but that doesn't happen overnight. And when you start with literally nothing, it
Mhm.
takes a life. I mean, most people go a lifetime with that. So I haven't quite gotten there yet, but I was paying people. I remember the first single, Love Exists, I paid someone, and I used my refund from the pandemic, like the
Mhm.
first check that I got. And stimulus, not refund, but it was like, $1,500 for one song, and I was so excited. And I was like, oh, this is really well produced. Once I get on Spotify, I'll make money. And then obviously, as most of us, if anyone's listening to your show, most people know that is not the case. It's like
Mhm.
for every 1,500 plays, I might make $1.
Yeah.
And so far we're at 10,000.
Yeah.
Like you have to, yeah. So that was a huge um that was a big blockade. So I was like, well, screw it. I'll just learn how to do it. So I spent the money for the next single that I would have spent for that and bought a studio in my house. And I'm actually using the mic to talk to you on this podcast.
Awesome. It's you've found a way to make your dream come true. Just by producing the music. And yes, like a lot of musicians find out, you're not going to make millions unless you're not going to make millions off of Spotify right away, unless you just happen to get like right place, right time type of scenario. But the fact that you're still grinding and you're still going after it is absolutely amazing.
Well, the one thing I found, and that is a steady thing in common with the people that are successful in paying their bills doing music, is they didn't stop.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. So before we play your first song here, what who introduced you to music originally? Who was kind of like that conduit to music for you?
You're gonna make me emotional. Good question. When I stayed at my, and I grew up in Alabama, so my Mima's house when I was little, lot. She was basically my daycare, and she had an old piano in the back corner of the house, and she played a little bit. And she has photos of me in diapers playing that piano. And it came to me pretty quickly, and I was at a very young age knew that that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, because it came pretty naturally for me. I was really lucky.
Okay. So it was kind of like what we were talking about a little bit ago, right place, right time, and you just kind of stuck to it.
Yeah, and my parents they don't play any instruments. My dad always jokes that if the milkman ever came up singing a song that somebody was gonna get shot. But I started playing guitar when I was 13, and that's when it really hit home, because they tried to give me lessons when I was 5, and the teacher just gave up on me because I would not read the music. Whenever she would play something, I would just play it after her and be like, why am I trying to learn these notes? Because I didn't find out till later, like I have a number dyslexia, so I don't do math well at all. It's not my strong suit. So reading music was a lot like math, and I was like, no, this is an easier way. I can just do it like this. So she wouldn't teach me, and later, my stubbornness. I wish that I had still taken lessons. I can play now, but I missed that opportunity as a kid.
Right. I have a similar story with the trumpet when I was in fourth grade, where I wouldn't practice or read the music, and everybody was just like, all right, if you're not going to do that, then we're just going to stop. And I was like, okay. And now in the back of my head, it's like, dang, I wish I would have stuck with it. Or, somebody would have been like, hey, practice, maybe nudged me to practice a little bit more. But
Well, that's
it,
because you and I are survivors. We have survival instincts, and
yeah.
if that makes no sense to us, then and I don't think it's obviously, yeah, we have regrets, but I don't say we beat ourselves up for it, because it makes us have heightened skills in other aspects of our lives. We're not conformist, man.
Mm-hmm.
We conform.
Agreed. 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 So we're gonna play one of your songs called "I Don't Want to." What's kind of the brief story of this song for everybody?
So I make a joke that I went to therapy because I kept falling in love with every person I met. So this is a love song I wrote about my therapist, but it was actually not my therapist. In AA, we have a mentorship program where we have sponsors,
Mhm.
and this particular sponsor was the first person that I'd had in my entire life that when they said they weren't going to judge me, I believed it, and I just woke up, literally woke up one day, looked at the ceiling, and realized, oh, I'm madly in love with this person. So I wrote the song out of that, because I really did not want to be in love with this mentor. I wanted to continue having a mentor and have a healthy boundary, but I skewed those things because I didn't know what a healthy relationship was.
So this song's been out for when did this song release, Lindsay?
2021, I think.
Okay, so it's been out for a little bit. It's one of it was it part of like the initial recording process for you? Because I know you said you uh started recording early on during the pandemic when you got some of that stimulus money.
Yeah, so like I said, it was Spotify. algorithm wants artists to release on a regular basis, and I have not had the budget to do that, and or the knowledge to do it myself since I moved up here. And so that second single was I had these high hopes, like the more that I released, the more I would get pitched on to editorial playlists and things like that. Because I don't have a manager, I don't have anyone. I have a publicist, an accountant, and
Mhm.
I have no idea what I'm doing. So the plays, were not picking up like I was hoping for.
Mhm.
And like I said, the money also, from a business standpoint, I am just throwing money away because I'm not going to make this back. And so I had to replan how I was going to do things, because that plan obviously wasn't working, spending $1,700-$1,800 on a single that's fully produced with the band, or have a producer do it. And they sound great, but it's not making anything.
Yeah.
And my fans from my entire life since I've been playing are used to just me on stage with a guitar. And so I thought that I would basically literally record my journey into being a producer. So start out with it took me a year just to be able to successfully record guitar and vocals in the way that I wanted them, where they sounded the way that I wanted them, and be able to do it quickly. And then the next album will evolve from there. But so I've got a string of acoustic singles that I'll be releasing for the next year until it's a full album.
Awesome. Awesome. That kind of leads into the next song here. So, but we'll talk about kind of that epiphany almost that you had of right now going into the studio just doesn't make financial sense. What was it like going through that learning process of producing your own music? Were you turning to people that you knew, or was it very much YouTube and Google that were kind of your teachers?
I'm going to be real with you, Tom. It was so much harder than I thought it was going to be. And I go from no recording background whatsoever to
Mhm.
buying tools, because one thing that I learned when I lived in the house, I changed my brakes myself. I took my refrigerator apart and put it back together because it wouldn't fit my door. And I learned that the knowledge is out there. You just have to be tenacious enough to learn it. And so
Mhm.
I was able to do these things just by YouTube and all this other stuff. And so when I bought it, I thought that YouTube would help. Well, on YouTube, every single person goes through the Pro Tools. There's 8 million ways to get the
Mhm.
same outcome. So I bunkered down and took a class, and Johnny Truesdale is the engineer and master for the tracks. I get them all recorded here, and then I send them over to him to master.
Nice.
And he was my teacher. He's a Grammy award winning engineer, so I didn't do bad finding him. I was lucky.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. That was the one thing. So back in the early days of Live and Amplified, we used to do like solo acoustic recordings. Like we release them as like live videos and whatnot. And the one thing that I learned from the guy that was helping me do a lot of the mixing and stuff, the recording and mixing of the audio, was mastering is the most important part. Like if you can get it in the ballpark, that mastering is going to bring it over the top. It's going to finish it. And so that was one thing that I always took away from recording. Like I'm not the best recording engineer. I'm not the best mixer, produce, any of that stuff. But mastering is absolutely the most important part.
Yeah, and he's a pro, that's for sure.
Yeah,
So I'll say he taught me everything I know.
nice. That's awesome. Which leads us to your new single, Shades of Gray. What's this is the first single off the aforementioned EP, you said?
Yeah, it's going to be a full album. Going to get pressed on vinyl. As of now, the album's going to be called Wonder Woman, because that's going to be the lead single that'll be released down the road. But yeah, it's Shades of Gray. It's basically I inquired with my fans the songs that they love the most from back in the day, because I've never given them a full album. They've always just had live recordings for, I'm about to be 39. So this is going on, and I've been performing live since I was 15. So this is a hot second. So I have all these people that have all these underground recordings. And so I just basically took a survey to see the ones that they really wanted. And this was the highest rated one that everyone wanted. And it was really uncomfortable for me to record because there's some semi-risque lyrics in there, because I wrote it when I was in my 20s. And like my fiance was like, well, it's not WAP,
Yeah.
so you can be a lot worse. We'll see how mom and dad feel about it, the rest of the family.
Right, right. But that's just kind of a cool idea to you have this like catalog of quote unquote underground music that you're essentially that you wanted to still have out there being shades of gray, and you just kind of went to the audience like, hey, what of these do you like? And like as you kind of grow and move on into your music career and things start to take off, whatever, it's always kind of cool to have that unreleased music that's a little bit more raw, and it's like, okay, maybe I could just kind of like sprinkle it in throughout the future releases and whatnot. So
yeah, the album is basically like a timeline of my writing.
mm,
And but it's hit or miss, because some of them were written earlier and some of them were written later. But I wanted to start with that particular one because I'd promised several people that would be the one. But I have my purpose written in the studio, and I want to be financially free, but my purpose that kind of drives it is to help others like those who've helped me, and to forgive others, and forgive myself, and to create with the intent of joy and emotional awareness. So I want to like put this out in the world, and what happens happens. But at least this way I can do it and still wait tables and pay my bills, or figure out another form of income. It's going to be
for,
steady.
for sure. I mean, I think that's the struggle for everyone, is trying to find that form of income and just kind of keeping yourself level, you know?
Yeah, and it seems like everyone in Nashville, when I openly talk about the fact that I wait tables, they're like, "Oh, you shouldn't say that in interviews. You shouldn't tell people." When all of us are literally bartenders or
Mm,
servers. And even I know several artists that are signed to pub deals, that are signed to major, recording contracts, that are still doing these jobs
mm,
on and off tour and in and out of the studio because they have to pay their bills, but they don't want to talk about it. And I'm like, no, people, like, why are you trying to be something you're not? And I think that vulnerability is my key to doing this safely and sanely in
mm,
my sober world. Not trying to be something I'm not, and just accepting the way things are, and knowing it's just temporary, and it's also okay. It's okay that I still wait tables. I
yeah,
make a joke out of it, and I do hope to be. I hope to God I'm a Grammy Award winning server one day. That's going to be the best book.
yeah. Well, that'll be the best title for an autobiography.
Yeah.
You know, but it's all in perspective. Like, I mean, to me, when somebody says, oh yeah, I won all, or I'm a Grammy award winning artist, but I still go out and serve at the bar, or like I'm a bartender or whatever. It just adds a sense of reality to the situation that a lot of people don't want to hear, but they need to hear it. Like this this is real. Like these are real situations. You'd mentioned the your hope of being that award-winning server, or award-winning server. Uh did, do you find keeping yourself grounded makes you work harder, as far as like keeping yourself grounded in, I don't want to say reality because that just sounds mean, but just kind of keeping yourself humble makes you work harder?
Yeah, I think that stems from trauma, because when I was younger, my parents took me national when I was 15, and I had a lot of great opportunities at a very, very, very young age. I was flown all over the world, and I had a lot of possibilities. And a lot of that was lost due to fear and arrogance. I did not know, and still to this day, the one thing most people hear me say the most is I don't know shit about shit, because I don't, and I thought I did, and I find that hubris when other artists that seem to fall and to be miserable, even artists that seem successful on the outside but that I've met in person, I find are miserable people. So my goal is not to be is to be happy. That's the goal now, is to do what I love to do and be happy, and be safe. And as far as humility, being in sobriety, that's a big part of it. So it's been a huge struggle for me, because you can't do this and not you. So my biggest downfall in my career was not marketing myself in the past several years. I did not market myself. And in business, like what they say, does McDonald's have the best hamburger? No, but
Yeah.
market it. So there's all these people like, oh, you sound so much better than this person on the radio and blah, 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 which is great. And I appreciate that. But the reason why is because they were marketed more. It is a business. And so that fine line of treading to where I've got to take a photo of myself and post it on the internet and still be humble. There's no one else doing these things. So it is a constant struggle. So I have a valid fear that if I let my ego get ahead of me, or if I don't do this with the said purpose that I mentioned earlier, that it will all be taken away from me. So it's a constant struggle. You can ask my therapist. I'm always talking about it. And I try to keep people in my life who are sober, who are also doing this, and kind of watch how they're doing it and model my actions in responses to that. Because as long as I'm doing it for the greater good and not for myself, then I think good things are going to keep happening to me like they already have.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. I 100% agree to that. So kind of looking forward as you look at the rest of your upcoming releases, what's kind of running through your mind right now? What are your plans as I guess technically we're running into fall now. Like it seems like summer just ran right past us. But what's kind of running through your head right now as we kind of enter September, October, and these fall months?
Possibly asking for help down the road, incorporating a manager, a business manager into my team of people to help with the marketing aspect, because I don't know anything about that, and there's only so much I can do on my own, and so much money I can throw in a certain direction to get it to where I need to be to do this right, to where people can hear it, and steadily just recording and doing the thing I love and getting the singles out every 6 weeks. I already have all the album art taken care of and everything's just set in place. It's just getting to do it, and I get to do this. This is what I've always wanted to do my entire life. And even if I throw it out there in the universe and no one hears it, I got to do it, and that's all
Yeah.
that matters to me.
Yeah, for sure. I take the same approach where it's like I set my mind to something, I'm gonna do it, and whether it gets 6 views or 6,000 views or 6 million, I got it out there. Like just finishing it and the journey the entire way across is what I really enjoy.
Yeah, same here. Don't get me wrong. I'm pushing for millions,
Oh
but
yeah,
I'm so grateful if it doesn't work out. I think that's the big key, is to just be grateful, no matter what. Because when I start comparing my career to other artists, I get in a really dark place, and I don't do that anymore.
yeah. I had to stop doing that during the pandemic because I got into that funk of seeing all these people that to me were just starting to pop up and they were getting all this success, and I started comparing everything that I had worked for at that time for the previous 5 years, and I was like, well dang, they got this in 6 months, but what I didn't see was they had been grinding for 7 8 years before I had even thought about doing
Right.
my podcast, just all that stuff. So I had to take a step back and gain a new perspective. So
Well, that's awesome. I'm proud of you, man. You are great. I can't wait to get to know more about you. I want to talk. I love Texas.
Texas is fun. Like I've only been here I moved to Texas right before the pandemic. And that's a whole different story as to why and whatnot. But I moved here 4 years ago, and I felt like I didn't get to know Texas. Like for the longest time, was that guy that lived in Central Texas, but had never been to like Austin, and I'd lived there for 3 years, or I'd lived in Waco. So I'm based out of Waco. And so like there was just a lot of stuff in Texas that I didn't get to experience because of how the pandemic kind of broke down in my job and all that fun stuff. But now that we're kind of free, it's like, okay, let's go experience these things. And yeah.
Do you think your listeners are based out of Texas, or where do you think most of your listeners are based out of?
So our hotbeds are Nashville, Austin, London, and Sydney, Australia.
Some of my favorite cities.
Yes. Because I spent so much time during the pandemic, like building communities in those four cities, that's just kind of where it's at. And then, we got a little bit in Florida, but it's not quite as big as the other places.
Tom, I'm so proud of you. It's such an honor for you to ask me to be on your show, man.
I appreciate it. It's when we just kind of crossed paths, it was just really cool. So like I must have been following you on Instagram prior, because I'm not quite sure how Threads works, but you just kind of popped up and it was absolutely amazing. So Lindsay, it's been an absolute blast chatting with you. I've enjoyed this conversation so much. It's been everything I thought it would be and so much more. So I appreciate you for coming on and chatting with me. If anybody wants to find you on social, interact with you, listen to your music, catch a live show, any of that fun stuff, where's the best place to find you?
Well, first of all, if you're listening to this, Tom's obviously an awesome person. So you're obviously an awesome person. So if you either go on my website, lindsayhinklemusic.com, or if you go to any of my socials, they're all at Lindsay Hinkle Music. And just shoot me a DM, say, hey, I heard you on Live Amplified, blah, blah, blah. I will send you some swag. I will personally mail you some swag because you were obviously an awesome person. But yeah, you can find me on all the things. It's just at Lindsay Hinkle Music. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Farmers Only, Plenty of Fish. You can find me on all those things.
You threw the Farmers Only in there, and I was like, nice little touch there. But Lindsay, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat with us. It's been an absolute blast.